seems to be the thing that everyone has in common, whether we're believers or not, is that we all need money. The Bible says that money answers all things. And so that seems to be one of the most pressing issues on the minds of most folks. Money. I need more money. And then as we recognize that we are children of God, we are believers, we tend to believe that we're special, you know. Daddy's little girl or daddy's little boy, and we expect that we need to walk in a certain prosperity because of the promise that God gave to Abraham and the covenant that we walk in. And so we're going to discuss prosperity today because we want to be well. We don't want to be depressed. And it seems that sometimes we spend years and years chasing after that financial carrot. And it seems to be just a little bit, you know, ahead of us. We never quite get there. That's why it's the chase. And it takes up a lot of our time. Years and years. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because does God want us to be financially well? Does God want us to be prosperous? There's so many ministries that have cut so many videos and so many CDs and cassettes and messages on prosperity and how to attain financial prosperity, how to walk in the blessing of God. And so we're going to discuss that today, but of course, from another perspective. Now, it's really not all that difficult to be financially well. Now, I don't mean rich, and I don't mean wealthy, but to be ahead of your bills, to have your bills paid for. It just takes a little bit of wisdom and some self-discipline, okay? First thing, turn to the book of 2 Thessalonians 3:10. You know, if a man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat. That's pretty self-explanatory, you know. There are a lot of people that simply don't want to work. They're always looking for that special little gimmick, that special little business that's going to create millions and millions of dollars. That's the power of even the network marketing industries, that there are people out there that don't want to work a regular job. You know, they want that big money now. And so they go after this business, they go after that business, and so many businesses, and never really making all that much money. But again, 2 Thessalonians 3:10, if a man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat. So I have steps to financial wellness, but they're not all that complicated. Simply get a job, you know, work, and spend less money than you make, okay? And so you'll end up with a surplus of money. Even if it's a very small surplus, you'll have a surplus of money if you're spending less than you're making. And if you have children, there are little investment accounts. Each state has particular little investment accounts that if you have the money taken out of your check, it's calculated. Your taxes are calculated on the money you have left, so you could have this money taken out of your check before taxes, and you can begin preparing for the future, the education of your children. And so that right there is a particular wellness that we sometimes neglect. But we look at other people, foreigners that come to America, and they, with a vision, you know, and a few dollars in their pocket, and their vision sometimes isn't that so much that they're going to be, you know, financially wealthy, but at least the next generation is going to be, or the following generation, or the generation after that. But see, we, you know, in this land, the land of opportunity that other people come to, we have the impression that we have to be financially wealthy now, you know. I was watching a little program on television today, or at least it was a preview of a program that was up and coming about a young man, 23 years old, like multi-millionaire, the creator of Facebook. Older folks may not know what that is, but the young people do. It's a particular internet community where young people communicate with each other, sort of like MySpace, okay? It's called Facebook. Young man. And I didn't, you know, really watch the preview. I just caught a glance of it, but he was speaking before a crowd of like hundreds of people, maybe even 1,000 people, but he was speaking before a group of people on stage. And I'm thinking to myself, why is that? He's speaking to a group, a multitude of people, giving them encouragement, giving them hope that they can do it too, putting a carrot out there, a carrot before their faces. Now, I'm sure those people probably had to pay to be in the audience, so this young man, oh yes, he's an entrepreneur, all right. He not only got paid for Facebook, but he's also getting paid for all these people that are listening to him to try to find out how to be wealthy, from an expert. But he's really no expert. He's just a young man that had an idea that happened upon, he stepped through a particular window of opportunity at the right time. He's very fortunate. For him, that was his destiny. And so we try to, in all honesty and with a good desire and a good heart, and hope and all. But rather than simply finding our own destiny, we try to tap into somebody else's. Well, how did they do it? Let me just duplicate what they did. But that was his thing, okay? And so there's another carrot being waved in the face of the multitude that are listening to this young man. The multitude trying to get rich, trying to get wealthy, but it's probably not going to happen for them. That was his destiny. And simply that. So get a job, work, spend less money than you make. Invest that money in the stock market. Find an expert, preferably a family member that doesn't have an agenda, to take more money from you, helping you get there, helping you get riches. Investment properties. I was very impressed by this one particular woman. I don't know who she, I don't really know her personally, but I knew she was living in this sort of an impoverished neighborhood with her couple of kids for a few years. And then one day I noticed that she had moved. And, many people move, especially in impoverished neighborhoods. But I always noticed, even this woman, she didn't dress like she was impoverished, and she really didn't drive an impoverished car. She stuck out in this neighborhood as not really belonging there. In the back of my head, I never really consciously thought about it, but it always seemed odd that this woman and her kids were living in this particular neighborhood. And then one day she was gone. And a couple of weeks later, she was back at the house and she was cleaning up the house. And I felt, well, she had moved and she's trying to get her deposit back. So I asked her, so you moved, you're no longer renting here? And she said, renting here? She had owned that little house. She lived in this little tiny house in an impoverished neighborhood with her kids, and she was working a regular job. And she was paying the mortgage on this place, maybe making single payments or double payments or whatever, I don't know. But she came to a point where she was saving up her money. She came to a point where she could move, and she moved into a nicer place. But this little house that she was living in, that she owned, was now her rental property. No, I didn't ask her to get into her business. Did she buy a house or is she just renting in another place? I didn't go there. But either way, this woman now has an investment property. And whether she's living in a house that she's bought now or she's living in a house that she's renting now, while she's renting out this house, getting income from this house, she's on a path to wellness, to financial wellness, by making some wise decisions. She was working a job. She was spending less money than she was making. And she had a surplus. Now she has a rental property and she's living somewhere else. See, too often we want to jump right into a big house, or we're always kind of financially strapped, just making the payments, paying the utilities and surviving. And we never get out of survival mode, and we have so many Americans that are losing their homes. When this particular woman is moving into a new place, and now she has a rental property to rent to someone who's could have possibly lost their home. So there was wisdom in this woman that she didn't see right off the bat that she needed something really large. She was able to take her time to get to where she wanted to go. She started from where she was at. Okay? There was wisdom in it. So that's the simplest way to be financially well. Don't rush yourself. Get a job. Spend less money than you make. Build up a surplus and invest that money. invest that money in your child's education.